Ready? We'll call this meeting to order, the Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors for April 26, 2022. Roll call, Mr. Beater.
Leyland?
Here.
Little?
Here.
Schwartz?
Here.
Felka?
Here.
White?
Here. Have a moment of silence to reflect on our actions for the day. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have the agenda received as proposed or as amended?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Public comments. Anyone in the boardroom have any public comments or online? Hearing none, claims and payments. Mr. Veeder?
Yes, sir. The total amount for claims for the week is $457,433.73. Of this, major expenditures are from the Sheriff's Office for a vehicle, $47,694.49. From IT, licenses for Office 365, $61,338. And from the Assessor's Office, software for appraisals for aerials, $159,070. This amount you are not technically approving, but it is included in the total.
Thank you, Grant.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution. Please answer as your name is called.
Leyland?
Yes.
Little?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Felka?
Yes.
White?
Yes, resolution adopted. Next is receive project updates from department heads and elected officials. Morning, Ryan.
Morning, Board. Ryan Brennan,
Morning.
Assistant County Engineer. Overall, the gravel roads are in pretty good condition. Crews are out spreading rock and grading the roads this week with a little moisture from last week. So we do have some construction going on up on Cedar Wapsie Road for one of our bridges, and hopefully within the next couple weeks here we see our paving contractor come in for some of our projects as well. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other department heads in the boardroom? Anyone online? Any department head online? Nafisa?
Good morning, Board. I just, so I don't really have any new information in regards to COVID, but I'd like to inform the Board of Supervisors. Tomorrow, the Board of Health is going to review our lead ordinance, and most likely there will be approval to proceed for it to be brought to you all. This is an ordinance that hasn't been updated since 1988. And so we went through a huge review process of updating language so it aligns with current day, and also we send out feedback. We ask for feedback from a multitude of organizations such as the City of Waterloo Community Development, which we partner with our HUD grant, Waterloo Code Enforcement, Landlord Association, lead certified contractors. So there was a good representation of community stakeholders also that we invited to provide us for feedback. So once the approval happens with the Board of Health, we will bring it to you all to be placed on your agenda for discussion or any feedback. But I'll also send an email to you all just to give you the breakdown of where the changes occurred. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Nafisa.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yolando? Moving on to minutes approved for April 19th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. hearing at 9:05, ordinance number 77-264, rezone request by Harold and Marilyn Even. We'll catch that at the end of the meeting. The following items.
Oh, I was going to say, there was an email that we received, though, that we're supposed to pull that from the agenda. So I was going to say maybe making that notice.
Was it that Becker one?
Yes, correct. And Seth, if you
This is for the even request.
The-
Mrs. Even called me
the
yesterday
even.
morning and indicated that they wanted to be removed from the agenda, so I sent everybody an email and let them know that they don't want to proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving back to consent agenda by resolution.
So move.
Second?
Any discussion on any of the items? Hearing none, this is the resolution. Please answer as your name is called.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Trelka,
Yes.
Leyland,
yes.
White.
Yes, resolution adopted. Next is other business. This is a motion that the personnel requisition for a property tax supervisor full-time replacement with a tentative start date of May 16th, 2022, and the treasurer's office be approved as recommended by Rita Schmidt, County Treasurer.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any questions for Rita? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is a motion that the personnel requisition for a court debt recovery officer full-time replacement with an immediate start date in the county attorney's office be approved as recommended by Brian Williams, county attorney.
So moved.
second,
Any discussion? Any questions for Brian? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Next is a motion to authorize and direct the finance director to set the date for a public hearing to be held at 9:05 on May 24, 2022, in boardroom 201 of the Blackhawk County Courthouse, Waterloo, Iowa, on the proposed fiscal year 22 budget amendment.
So move. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Next, the resolution that the minor plat of survey submitted by Mark Becker to minor plat 1.5 acres located at 6925 Amesboro Avenue in order to construct one new single-family home. The property is adjacent to the Amesboro Avenue and West Washburn Road intersection, and if approved, the county auditor to be directed to certify a copy of the resolution for the Blackhawk County recorder.
So moved. Second,
Moved and seconded.
Okay. All right. Yeah, basically it's just a minor plat request for Mr. Becker. Mr. Becker was last week approved for his rezone. So basically this is just to approve the minor plat for the area that was approved for a rezone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Hearing none, this is the resolution. Please answer as your name is called.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Trelka,
Yes.
Leyland,
yes.
Little,
Yes.
White.
Yes, resolution adopted. Next, the resolution to amend April 19th, 2022, resolution granting grounds use request for Classic Coal Conversations to use the courthouse on May 7th, 2022 for mock trial, subject to providing proof of liability insurance with a minimum of $1 million coverage, to remove the requirement of proof of liability insurance, but to require all participants sign a liability waiver approved by the Board of Supervisors as recommended by Iris Varing, PDCM.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just a question for Mike. I think you were looking, obviously, at the waivers.
That's
And-
right. And per my response on those, and I think I sent it to the whole board, the waiver's fine as far as waivers go. Waivers are not the same thing as insurance. They are not, it's not going to provide the same reassurance. There are ways you can challenge waivers, and I explained that in my email. But I would like her to submit a separate one, and otherwise, in lieu of that, I can go ahead and adapt it so that it better spells out when it's for a minor. But subject to that, I mean, this is a group where the waiver is all they're going to be able to do. So if you require insurance, they can't use the courthouse for this. If you don't require insurance but require the waiver, then they can.
And we're well protected with the waivers. So-
We're as well as you can be. A waiver is it's not a guarantee that the waiver will not be challenged. Waivers have been defeated in court before. So there's never a guarantee in the legal world, and that's the risk you take with a waiver.
And there's never a straight answer from an attorney.
Well, what's the straight answer you're looking for, Mr. Trelka?
Yes or no?
Yes or no is what he wanted.
I think the waiver is adequate.
Okay.
Yes.
However, I get it. Thanks, Mike. Did we decide, were we having staff? Is there going to be staff present in the building, or did anybody?
I'm going to be here.
Okay. Super.
We're also going to have Permar security.
I
Yeah.
knew security was. I didn't know.
Anyone?
Great. Thank you.
This is a resolution. Please answer as your name is called.
Trelka,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
White.
Yes, resolution adopted. Next is a motion to approve a liability waiver form to be signed by all Classical Conversations mock trial participants and guests on May 7, 2022, as recommended by Iris Varing at PDCM.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Next is discussion, possible board action, setting parameters for the weekly Board of Supervisors agenda.
I put that on last week. Craig brought it up. Kayla's here today. I told her to come up with some ideas for the board. I think it's time that we have some, I don't want to call them rules, but some kind of a procedure, because it's kind of chaotic now. And it's hard for her to operate an agenda when they come flying in on a Friday afternoon or something. So I think, Kayla, did you have anything you wanted to add to it, or?
Kayla Zwanziger, admin aide for the Board of Supervisors. I think we just go based off of when you guys would like to see the agenda, when you want the preliminary to come out, how long you want to review it before the final, and then we set an approval guideline based on that, because I think what really matters is when it's approved. You know, some we have a lot of questions for, and some we get approved and ready to go within a couple minutes. So I think it comes down to when we need that preliminary out.
I think a good time is 12 noon Thursday. Preliminary goes out Thursday afternoon to the board, and then Friday she puts out the agenda to everybody, because there could be times where she's going to be gone early or something. We meet weekly, so it's not like if they miss the agenda that it's it's not going to be on another week. So it seems like we've had a lot of emergencies, more than what we've ever had in the past. So I think we need to clean some of them up too, because I think they're kind of using that term a little bit too much. So my suggestion would be 12 noon Thursday, preliminary to the board Thursday afternoon, and the final to everybody Friday.
Any particular time Thursday? I know Kayla had mentioned that to me yesterday.
Oh, by sending it out?
About getting out to the board, and I said, to me, that makes the most, that's probably the primary issue that for us is when we want to have that for our review.
What time do you think on a Thursday afternoon?
I'm open to whatever you guys think.
I mean, you're probably talking before, probably 2 o'clock, wouldn't you think, Linda? So you got time to have a conversation with her if you want something changed.
Yeah, because we would have all day Friday as well. I mean,
yeah.
if we decided, there is something we want to pull from it, sure.
That
I
works.
mean, I think typically we could get it out within an hour or two of whatever the cutoff is.
Thursday?
On a typical day, yeah. I mean, there's always going to be holidays and meetings and things, but I think on a typical day that'd be fine.
This is nothing new. Years ago we had the same procedures, just that we got a little lax and straight away from it. So.
Well, and she made good comments the other day to me as well, and probably did to all of you, that depending on if some of the items are submitted to us and they've needed legal review, they probably shouldn't be approved for the agenda. Nor if there was like some question about writing the resolution, like maybe we haven't figured out quite how to write that. So those types of things, if they were addressed earlier, all kind of resolve some issues for you, I think, too. So if we all just work to do some of that better. But I think, having I don't know, does Thursday noon sound like it's good for everybody? It's definitely, I think Wednesday at 4 was so early because it was so immediate after Tuesday's meeting that it
I
pushed
think
everything.
Thursday at noon, I'll make that motion with the preliminary going out as soon as possible on Thursday to the board, and then the final agenda sent out to everybody on Friday.
Works for me.
So, yeah, if we need a motion for it, I guess, because we can always reevaluate that, but I thought too, we need to just make sure we get
If
that
we take
information.
action on it, then it's a board action and the departments know it.
And then we can have Kayla send out something so that everybody's aware of it, I think, because sometimes.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Moved in second. Any further discussion?
Okay, deadline Thursday,
Noon.
Noon?
and final goes out on Friday.
Yeah. Preliminary Thursday afternoon.
Final goal, we didn't say what time, so I would assume, would that be closer to the end of day, or do you think it makes more sense to do that earlier in the day so it gives staff and department heads a chance to look at things and maybe change it as well, or not?
Depends on how many changes are going on. I mean, we could do it in the morning if there's nothing that's changed from the first draft.
Well, I just thought, now mentioning the things that we're talking about, if staff knows when to expect a final, for them too, then if there is something on there, I guess, then they think, whoops, that was wrong, or we need to correct something, that they might have had an item on there. I don't know. I guess just try to avoid as many problems as we can, but maybe that's.
So
getting-
the preliminary is going out to everybody.
No, preliminary's going to the board Thursday afternoon, the final's going out Friday.
Okay. So if people have items on the agenda that they'd like to review, do they have that opportunity?
Yeah, see, I think that's an important one, so that you can say yes or no before it goes out final. I
I
don't
would
know.
hope if they submit an item, Grant, that it would be what they want, otherwise they wouldn't submit it. Kayla's done enough agendas that she can put it in the proper language. But if you think it's important and a department looks at their request and see if they made the right request.
Yeah,
Go
Let's-
ahead, Grant.
Let's put it that way, yeah. Sometimes people make mistakes, and it's nice to have a chance to clear them up.
or at least to look at it and see if it's worded correctly or how you wanted it, because it may not say
You're saying
exactly what it said.
preliminary?
It would need to be preliminary in one sense or another if department heads or people submitting the items would have a chance to correct any mistakes.
It's making more timelines, obviously, if we all add all this to it.
We can
but-
still do the noon, but the preliminary she can send out to whoever had an item on the agenda.
Yeah, at the same time that they send to us? Is
Yeah.
that what you're thinking?
That would
Oh,
work.
Okay,
Well,
yeah, works for me.
It never used to be that way, but if we feel we need to clean something up, let's just do it and be done with it.
it has been that way before because sometimes I've found things that I was able to correct before the agenda went out, the final agenda went out. And sometimes it's even helpful for people who don't have items on the agenda to see it because they can sometimes see things that other people didn't see. But I guess as long as it goes out to people who did put items on the agenda, I still think that would be a good idea.
I think that's an important.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So
So that
Thanks
works
for the
your
input.
minutes?
the motion is deadline to submit an item to the agenda is Thursday at noon. A preliminary goes out Thursday afternoon, and the final goes out on Friday. Do you want to set a time on Friday or just
No.
leave it up to Kayla?
Leave it up to Kayla.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is discussion, possible board action, the proposed space study plan presented by Envision Architecture.
Morning, Board.
Morning.
Morning.
Tim Turnus with Envision Architecture.
Angie Nace with Envision Architecture.
Last Monday, we sent you an email requesting 3 action items for approval based on the previous conversations we've had about the facility master plan. Are there any questions regarding those requests for approval? No. If so, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to
What were you
review
going to say?
those-
Give me the if so, go ahead.
I was just going to review those 3 items for you, just so everybody's clear about what we're requesting today. First of all, approval on the proposed master plan phasing, as presented the last time we met in closed session. We sent you those documents on April 12th. Approval to present the proposed master plan to department heads, and that meeting would be scheduled within the next 2 weeks after approval. And the approval of the budget that was presented at the last meeting as well.
And the second item, I think, when you were talking about proceeding with the department heads, that was really more or less to roll out the program to them, but also to ask for their questions and input to see if there were things that they, I guess, feedback
That's
for
correct.
you and for us.
It's really about more of a presentation to
Does
the
it work?
department heads to inform them, to present, to gain some buy-in from those department heads about the moves that we're planning to make, excuse me, as well as if there are any fine-tuning to those phases and changes that they can provide some feedback for. But holistically, we would keep the same concepts that we had presented in the last meeting.
Okay. Has anybody else got questions? No? We're ready to proceed, I guess.
My
with the-
question would always be on the third item, where are you gonna come up with $23 million?
Oh, I didn't think we'd, that's the part, I guess, I'm kind of hanging out there. With even if we love these phases, and I'm not saying I do, because I think I've been one that probably hasn't.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
as we move through the phases of the master plan, the intent of each phase is that you're complete as county departments at the end of each phase. And so if you decide to stop with construction at that point and you want to stop at the end of that phase, you can. And so you're not committing to that dollar amount at this point. We'll have lots more discussions as we actually get into a project related to these phases. This is really just a roadmap for moving forward in redevelopment of county departments.
And you're scheduling those meetings with the department heads the next couple?
After your approval today, yes, we will schedule those within the
Sounds
next 2
good.
weeks. Yep.
So us saying yes to today with buy-in, what does that mean to you?
That you have had a chance to review the phasing. You agree with those moves based on the information that we presented, and you're willing to accept the costs associated with that if we enter into a project.
So what we'd have in phase one, that you have for the most part, that's at Pinecrest and obviously the clinic and that type of thing?
That's correct.
What was that, Linda? I didn't understand what you said.
Phase one. So if we look at it in their phases that they did 1 and 1A, 1B, 1C, and 2 and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were moving on, that would be the first item you want to...
Correct. Yep. So the phases are really oriented around locations, and the first phase is oriented around the redevelopment of Pinecrest and the public health department.
So by supporting, like, say, phase one today, we're committing ourselves?
No, not necessarily. There'll be much more conversations, agreements, presentations, a lot more detail to present to all of you to approve the project.
By supporting the phase one today actually means what then?
Yeah.
That it's the right move as far as phase one of the master plan. That it's a priority department for the Board of Supervisors to move forward with in enhancing.
That's what we see as the most important
Correct.
thing to move
Right.
forward.
And again, this
And
is
the
just a
ability.
roadmap. This is not a project. We're
Right.
not entering into construction yet. Again, there'll be more agreements to come.
And
So,
this is
yeah, go ahead.
This is basically just the starting point because there's so many moving parts in this. It makes
That's
room
So if
for
somebody else to move.
our next step in the process.
100% a domino effect with
Yes.
all of these, since
Yes.
we have to put them in an order that we're all in agreement with, and then you guys can chunk it off as you see fit and as the budget allows.
Correct.
So what are next steps for you immediately after we say, yes, we agree with the buy-in today?
So we still need to complete the master plan, and so with your review and approval of this today, we will present that to the department heads. We'll fine tune what each of those phases means. If we need to reassess the cost estimate associated with those tweaks, we can. And then we will formalize a deliverable for all of you as a master plan to provide action on at a future date.
And when do you estimate that would be?
To complete the master plan.
Well, for all of what you said, I guess, and come back for us for the next step.
So schedule that department head meeting within the next 2 weeks, and then another 2 or 3 weeks after that to complete the deliverable.
Yeah, because I can move forward quite a bit with phase one. I mean, I think that's important that we kind of were looking at.
But by doing that, does that give the impression to department heads that we're supporting it? And that
Yeah,
we're
see,
gonna go
that's
ahead? See,
what I
that's
wanna-
the problem I have.
Yeah, that's the problem I have.
I mean, is that giving them the false hope that we're gonna go through with this?
We're not guaranteeing anything when, presentations to the department heads. It's really just providing ideas and concepts on how we can enhance and better the departments that we've covered in this master plan.
So when you would come back to us with this master plan moving forward after today and the input from the staff, and then I suppose then you'd prepare the master plan, which would include all these phases.
That's correct.
However, if we're not supportive of all these phases, what is our option? Because I'm not, I mean, even if I can be convinced that we should start and begin with the clinic, and that's the greatest thing and the priority, high priority for a project, that's $4 million estimated cost. But then we start to move into relocating other people's departments, and I'm not supportive of several steps in there. So what, that's what I think when Tom says like a false sense of, yes, let's move forward on it. I'm not sure we're there to that kind of a master plan.
I don't think we want to move ahead and present it to the departments if you guys are not in favor of the
order.
Of all three steps.
Right.
We need the feedback from you guys in order to make any changes to that, because right now we're not getting that feedback.
No, and see, that's what's difficult for us because of 5 of us having to do that. I guess we have to
Majority
provide.
rules.
Well, that's what I mean. It does. You're
Yeah.
right. No, it's what happens. It's a consensus, but it just means what parts do you do or not do, or how do you do it, or what order, or.
Some of it just makes common sense to update. If we've talked about it long enough, now it's time to put the ball on the playing field.
Takes a little bit more than common sense, takes dollars.
Well, I know.
And I haven't heard where the money's coming from.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the
I
money
mean,
at
it's
all.
4 million here or 5 million, where's it coming from?
Some will come from ARPA funds. I
Yeah.
think we've known that, but not 20 million.
No.
So then we're either bonding for it or using our general fund or our reserves, or we tax for it.
Well, you're taxing no matter if you're
No, but
bonding, you're
I'm not-
taxing too.
No, but I meant you could say we'd tax for it. I mean, so there are options we have, but it's just like, yeah, so we're talking about a pretty sizable project when we look at 23 million.
Yeah.
And some of the things, I guess, I hate to, and I can provide that feedback, but I said that doesn't provide the feedback then to the board.
What
So
sounds like
that becomes difficult.
at this point, I mean, I ultimately see a hybrid of
Yes.
funding it, ARP funds, reserves, and bonds. But that's a discussion for the board to have, but it sounds like we need to have another meeting with the architects.
And I don't know, yeah.
I mean, I'm ready to proceed,
ready.
but
I
the
know.
majority of the
I
board
know.
isn't, it sounds like. So,
Well, I just look at this, and I know, and I am a taxpayer, obviously, we all are here in this room, but I look at things that we have to answer to the taxpayers. I mean, we should. I mean, that's our job, obviously. We all know that. But to justify some of the things in this and say that this is what we need to do with $23 million, whether it's all taxpayer money, I agree, but how we go about it. We use it out of ARPA, and that's a different type of funding that we've not had, but it's still taxpayers' money, and it's still taxpayer projects. And when ultimately, I guess I ask myself, when this project's all done and we've done this $23 million, do the taxpayers look at it and say, gee, that was great, you made this more efficient, or you've accomplished this, or we're so glad this is how you spent it? And I can't answer that with this plan, to me.
Well, we've made some commitments to roads already that we're probably going to be bonding for, that this board's already committed to.
True.
ARPA funding, to be honest with you, I don't care, because we got to use that money, or should use it. I kind of cringe a little bit every time I hear this reserve stuff. I mean, them reserves ain't going to be there forever, and there's a reason why they're at today. And if you think they're money to be used on projects like this, it won't be too long where you'll be taxing higher just to build that reserve back up again. So the ARPA money I don't have any problem with, but the bonding, we've made some commitments already with roads, and the reserve's going to go down soon enough.
Well, there's only 2 places we're going to be able to use ARPA money out of this, and this is probably from a public health standpoint and that lost revenue. And that's going to be a limited amount of money, so that will determine to us what's available in ARPA at least. I don't know if that's something the board wants to consider, like how we use ARPA and what that allows us to do of this project, you know, and then we can say, hey, this is how we spend it. But some of the efficiencies I'd like to see, and I think I've used that word before with this group, the efficiencies I'd like to see that we're identifying might be the hybrid, might be what are we doing to improve the customer experience or make it a better experience for our staff working together. When they talk about offices, you know, there were some remodels and things like that early on in conversations because they saw more efficiencies accomplished, I think, than what we are doing. So I like that idea. I think that's great. That's what we want. It works better for the staff, which ultimately works better for our customers. I don't think all those things in this plan do that. That's just me.
So next week, we have the auditor here, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
James is back.
Yep.
Maybe next week would be a good time for, between us, the auditors, information, James, and the architects, should we table this and talk about it more next week?
I'll just add, I'm good with tabling this for a week. I'll just add, my priority definitely remains, especially with the ARPA funding, when we talk about space needs, remains the public health clinic, because that's what this money is for. That's what the spirit of this funding is for, and it's when I look at our facilities, it's the most inefficient one that we have as far as serving the public. Beyond that, I still want us to see, with remaining ARPA funds, still entertain some community-based projects and open that up, you know, to see if there are proposals from the community that the board would be supportive of. Before we get too far down the road of committing things to remodels and such.
Yeah. Well, see, that was my concern, as many of you know, have seen in my emails, is that the flexibility that we have in ARPA, other than clinic-wise, is in lost revenue. And we've already started utilizing those funds, $1 million plus or something like that. So that starts limiting the amount that we can use for this building or these buildings and anything we do. So I just thought from a planning standpoint, we might want to start looking at it that way. If we've decided we want to use it for buildings, then we'd have to look at our projects differently and quit using lost revenue as a category, you know, to fund things. So,
you know, we've had the luxury for years when we bonded a little over 1% or less than 1% money. Those days are over. I think right now it's up to 3.5%. You take a bond, our last bond that we bonded for at that interest rate, and then go with the new one, you'll see the difference in monies. So, you know, that's not going to be a given either on bonding anymore. I still don't buy that theory where we got to keep our curve level. Yeah, so we got to spend more money to keep it level is what we're talking about. I think we need to kind of look at more things here. But the ARPA money is something we need to concentrate on and use it where we can.
So to answer your questions, it might be that we need more information, which would be like next week we can ask Miranda these questions from an ARPA related standpoint too, what that leads to us, to get back to you with dollars and maybe then where we'd like to prioritize. Because obviously we knew there were areas that were, elections was one we were kind of addressing immediate and needed to look at. The clinic definitely was one. Some of the others not so much. Rita had some things that she's been, I know, really wanting to improve and mentioned if we weren't going to use ARPA, how was that going to impact our budget? Or should it, what could we do on that? So, yeah, I think we just have to prioritize. I'm wondering, you said hybrid, and I'm wondering if we don't almost look at, I don't know, I think I've heard the term a la carte or whatever, but which projects could we accomplish, or do we really see our priorities and like to see done? And
yeah, some things we also have to consider is that within these projects, each one of these items, they do have infrastructure upgrades as well, whether it's IT, electrical, HVAC. You know, those are things that are going to need to happen regardless of a project in multiple buildings, especially at Pinecrest with the ventilation requirements there.
Yeah.
So if there's a project, it just makes sense to lump some of those upgrades into those projects since contractors are working in those buildings.
Well, maybe those are some of the questions I had when there's a floor, maybe that we're not touching. Do we need to do those infrastructure
Right.
improvements on there, or does it just make sense that that's when you do?
And within that budget summary, I tried to pull some of those things out that aren't necessarily tied to a project, or if it's on a different floor from the floor we're working on. You could potentially take on something like that, whether as a capital project or the project that's identified as part of the renovation.
Well, maybe in the next week, we can all look at what was emailed to us and presented and come back with suggestions as to what needs to be pared down for discussion next week.
The whole picture could be a lot clearer if we could start coming to some conclusion on some of this ARPA money.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of spinning our wheels on some of it. I'd like to know what we have left, 11 million, 10 million, and what can we spend it on
Yeah.
legally.
And I think that's what the
Because we're
auditors
kind of
help
looking at
on.
2 or 3 different pots of money here, it
Yeah.
sounds like to me. And I'm all for the ARPA money because we got to utilize that money anyway.
And I think Chris brings up a point too, depending on how we utilize it or how we can't utilize it, we might end up opening this up to others in our communities, I guess.
You know, I don't have a problem with that, but I want to make sure we take care of our own departments.
Oh, me too, me too. That's kind of what we're responsible for, so.
My county departments.
Yep.
Our county departments.
No, I just meant if there are dollars we can't utilize in some
Yeah.
reason, then we
See, I
definitely
don't know really what that answer is right
Yeah,
there.
okay.
So if I could just quickly summarize of what I'm hearing then. So next week, you're providing feedback on the plans that were presented and the phasing that was presented as well as the dollars. So we'll use procedurally the meeting next week to provide that feedback in a public setting.
Ultimately, that sounds good, I think, too, but James isn't back till Monday, I don't believe.
Okay.
I don't know if he'll have, we can ask, I guess we can.
And then the second thing is the request that we had previously of identifying a budget amount. We'll have maybe a clearer picture in that meeting as well as
Maybe we can
what
get that
that
at
budget
least.
number is.
Try to get that
Correct?
for Tuesday, yeah.
Yes. I'll make a motion to table.
That's going to be hard to
Thank you.
do with him.
I know.
Not back till Monday, and we
And
have a
that's-
meeting Tuesday. They don't get much time to do all
Might
this
be the
stuff.
following week,
Might
maybe.
have to keep it for 2 weeks from today.
Get all of our stuff from the auditor and everything
Yeah.
answered
Because
and
we do have the auditor here, what, Tuesday?
Tuesday.
I'll make a motion to table until May 9th.
Yeah.
That'd be a
No,
better,
wait,
10th, I think.
10th.
May
I think
10th.
that'd be a better.
That gives everybody, yeah, he'd come back and probably quit.
It gives you guys more time too.
He'd probably quit before Tuesday.
Yeah.
Just option 3, why don't you lose that one when you come back the next?
That's caused me a lot of grief too, so.
Phase 3?
Yeah, phase 3.
The $17 million
Why don't you
one.
drop that one?
No, we'll be back together in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm not in the mood to
Stay
buy
on course.
windows for basement.
Okay.
Does that work? Does that summarize it well enough to come? We'll try to get information in
Be
the
back
next
in 2
2
weeks.
weeks and come back with and be more productive for you. I'm sorry.
I think we're going to get enlightened next Tuesday with our auditor and
That'll help. Yeah, for
finance
sure.
director, so we got a clearer picture on where we're going with this.
I think the finance director knows which way to go.
Well, hopefully we'll find out next week.
Yeah, well, it's
We'll also
it's a
try to
group.
be prepared with a little bit more of a building assessment, so you have an understanding
Yeah.
of the conditions of your buildings.
Yeah.
And I think that'll help decision making as well.
Yeah.
As providing that information of the conditions of the buildings.
I always know I can send the questions to you, but that doesn't answer this to the
Understood.
board, and so that I know that makes it difficult. But I just thought when I made mine, it was like, okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to say to leave us with before?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your patience.
So do I have a second on that
Second.
to table it?
No, none needed, right?
Not needed?
Would it make
There
sense
was no
to,
motion made, so there's
Okay.
no.
just a
action
table?
taken.
I was just gonna say,
Right.
would it make sense for you to still have a meeting with staff? No, it wouldn't. I guess I was thinking to have
No.
feedback that might be a positive
That'd
or
make
negative
that'd
too.
muddy the water even worse.
Yeah, that's all right.
Let's keep it as clean as we can for now until we get who's in charge straightened out. Any reports or information from the board?
Who's in charge? That's a good one. Do you mean of us?
No.
Oh.
I just want to share a thank you to the board from the Middle Cedar River Watershed Management Authority. We had a meeting this past week, and everybody's really appreciative that Black Hawk County stepped up to contribute a portion of the funding to keep operations going. And since we were so early to the game in making our commitment, that helped inspired other communities like Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and a number of other counties to also pay their portions. So,
do you know how much they got?
I just want to pass along that thanks to everyone.
Do you know how much they ended up with then, Chris?
I believe we are at, I'll double check it and get it to everybody, but at about 42,000 of our 50-some thousand goal.
Great. Good progress.
Yes.
Any other reports or information from the board? Mr. Trelka?
Yeah, I was contacted by Elevate. They want to give, I believe, a presentation on their program again next week. So I'll make sure to get that on the agenda. Right now I'm waiting on more details from them, exactly what they want to
talk about.
I think just their program.
There's two Elevates. There's the one Bob Lincoln's got, and there's the one the City of Waterloo's got for housing.
It's Bob Lincoln's program.
Oh, good.
So.
Good.
Right.
Good to see him.
Yes. I'll get more details. I'm supposed to be getting a call from them.
And they're going to do that when?
Next week, a week from today.
Okay.
I see an email from him today that he's pretty good. You better talk to him first before you put it on. He's got a lot of stuff going on right now from what was indicated. I just want to congratulate my grandson on getting the Offensive Player of the Year for the Waterloo Warriors for the season. So he's pretty pumped up about that. And he's got a skate with one of the coaches from some other league that they're talking about moving him up to a league his senior year out of town. So he'd really be happy about that. I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.